Mad TV actress Erica Ashe has died.
Actress Shelley Duvall has died.
Donald Sutherland has died.
Actress Shannon Doherty has died after a 9-year battle with cancer.
Hollywood's brightest stars, gone in the blink of an eye. Cancer, sudden illnesses, and relentless battles that no one saw coming. These icons left us with more questions than answers. What really happened in their final moments? And could anything have changed their fate? The death of Shelley Duvall. Shelley Duvall, known for her iconic roles that spanned decades, faced the final chapter of her life with a profound and heartbreaking struggle. For years, Duval had battled complications from diabetes, a condition that had slowly eroded her health. As the years wore on, her once vibrant presence began to fade, and those closest to her could see the toll it was taking. In the months leading up to her death, at the age of 75, Duval's condition deteriorated significantly. Friends and family members noted that her energy levels had plummeted, and her ability to manage the illness was becoming increasingly difficult. The once formidable actress, who had captivated audiences with her unique performances, was now confined to her home, relying heavily on caretakers for support. In her final days, Duval's condition worsened to the point where she was admitted to the hospital. The complications from diabetes had triggered a series of cascading health issues, including severe kidney problems and a weakened heart. Despite the efforts of her medical team, it became clear that the situation was dire. The evening before her passing, Duval was surrounded by loved ones who held vigil at her bedside. Her breathing had become labored, and the spark that once defined her was now barely a flicker. On July 11th, as the sun set on a warm summer evening, Shelley Duvall took her last breath, leaving behind a legacy of unforgettable performances that would forever echo in the annals of film history. Fans wonder, did she find peace in those final hours, or was there a lingering sense of unfinished business? The final days of Bill Cobbs. Bill Cobbs, a veteran actor whose presence on screen was as powerful as it was understated, passed away at 90, closing the curtain on a remarkable career that spanned more than 4 decades. Best known for his memorable roles in films like Demolition Man and The Bodyguard, Cobbs brought a unique depth and subtlety to every character he portrayed, becoming a beloved figure in Hollywood and beyond. Cobbs's career was marked by his ability to elevate even the smallest roles with his nuanced performances. He was a master of restraint, often delivering more with a glance or a gesture than others could with pages of dialogue. His portrayal of Zachary Lamb, the elder officer in Demolition Man, and the loyal butler in The Bodyguard are just 2 examples of how Cobbs could make a supporting role unforgettable. But beyond these, his work in films like That Thing You Do and New Jack City further showcased his versatility, allowing him to shift seamlessly between genres and characters. In his later years, as the roles naturally became fewer, Cobbs continued to work, appearing in guest spots on television and in smaller film roles. However, his health began to decline. The once vigorous actor who had always brought a quiet strength to his roles found himself increasingly weakened by a long, relentless illness. It started with what seemed to be minor ailments, fatigue, occasional shortness of breath. But as time passed, it became clear that these symptoms were part of a more serious condition. His illness, though never publicly disclosed in detail, was understood to be a progressive one, slowly sapping the energy and vitality that had defined him for so long. As his condition worsened, Cobbs made the decision to step away from the public eye. His family, ever supportive, took on the role of caregivers, ensuring that he was surrounded by love and comfort in his final months. Despite the best efforts of his medical team, it became evident that Cobbs's illness was terminal. The actor who had once portrayed characters of unshakable resolve and resilience was now facing a struggle that even he could not overcome. His strength, both physical and mental, ebbed away, leaving behind the essence of a man who had lived his life with dignity and grace. In his last days, Cobbs was surrounded by his family in the familiar surroundings of his home. The warmth of their presence provided solace, but the reality of his condition was inescapable. His passing, when it came, was quiet, much like the man himself. There were no grand fanfares, no dramatic last moments, just a peaceful end to a life lived with integrity. Bill Cobbs's death marked the conclusion of a remarkable journey, both professionally and personally. The unseen struggle of James Sikking. James Sikking, remembered as Lieutenant Howard Hunter on Hill Street Blues, faced a harrowing decline that he kept largely private. At 90 years old, Silling succumbed to the devastating effects of dementia, a disease that gradually stripped away the sharpness and authority he once displayed on screen. His battle with dementia wasn't public knowledge. For years, Silling's struggle remained behind closed doors, hidden from the fans who knew him as the no-nonsense disciplined officer. Early signs were subtle, occasional forgotten lines, brief moments of confusion. But over time, the symptoms became more pronounced. What started as minor lapses in memory evolved into a relentless erosion of his cognitive abilities. The actor, once known for his commanding presence, began to retreat from the public eye as the disease took hold. As dementia progressed, it wasn't just his memory that suffered. Silling's physical health declined alongside his mental state. The once strong and capable man became increasingly dependent on those around him. By the final years, he was a shadow of his former self, struggling with confusion and the loss of his identity. The disease robbed him of the ability to connect with the world that had once been his stage. In his last days, Silling was cared for in a hospice, surrounded by family who witnessed the painful transformation of a man they had always seen as strong and resilient. His death was quiet, marking the end of a lengthy and heartbreaking decline. As we remember his legacy, the image of a once powerful actor contrasts starkly with the quiet, vulnerable end he faced. Bob Newhart, The Long Goodbye. Bob Newhart, a name synonymous with timeless comedy, was a man whose life was filled with laughter, both on and off the screen. However, the last chapter of his life was marked by a series of short illnesses that, in a cruel twist of fate, culminated in his passing at the age of 94. Newhart had always been known for his sharp wit and unparalleled comedic timing, traits that endeared him to audiences for decades. But as he aged, his once vibrant health began to wane. The illnesses that plagued him in his final months were relentless, each one chipping away at the man who had once seemed invincible. In the weeks leading up to his death, Newhart's condition became increasingly precarious. His family, who had always been a source of strength for him, watched helplessly as the man who had brought joy to so many struggled to maintain his own. Despite the best efforts of his doctors, Newhart's health continued to decline, and it became evident that his time was running out. On the morning of his death, Newhart was surrounded by his loved ones, his frail body barely clinging to life. Donald Sutherland, The Final Curtain. Donald Sutherland, known for unforgettable roles in MASH, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and The Hunger Games, fought a private battle against a debilitating illness in his final years. At 88, the actor's life ended after a prolonged struggle that many were unaware of. Sutherland's illness was kept from the public, concealed behind the professionalism that had always characterized his career. While his appearances became less frequent, those who knew him best saw the toll the illness was taking. His once imposing presence began to fade as his body weakened, though he fought to maintain his work and public image as long as he could. The physical decline was gradual but unmistakable. Sutherland's energy, which had fueled so many dynamic performances, began to fade. The actor, who had once captivated audiences with his intensity, was now struggling with the limitations imposed by his illness. In his final year, he withdrew from the public eye, choosing to spend his remaining time in the quiet company of family. As the illness progressed, Sutherland's frailty became more evident, and his days were spent surrounded by loved ones, away from the cameras and the demands of his profession. His death brought an end to a remarkable career, but also to a deeply personal battle that had been waged away from the spotlight. Time is so unpredictable, right? Even the strongest among us must eventually confront their own mortality. Shannon Doherty, A Battle to the End. Shannon Doherty was a woman who faced every challenge head-on, whether it was a demanding role or a personal battle. However, her strongest opponent came in the form of cancer, a disease that would ultimately claim her life at the age of 53. For years, Doherty had been open about her fight with cancer, sharing her journey with the public in the hopes of raising awareness and offering support to others facing similar battles. But despite her best efforts, the disease continued to spread, eventually reaching a point where it could no longer be contained. In the months leading up to her death, Doherty's condition became increasingly dire. The treatments that had once offered hope were no longer effective, and the cancer had metastasized to multiple parts of her body. Her once strong physique was now frail, and even the simplest tasks became monumental challenges. As her health declined, Doherty made the difficult decision to enter hospice care. She knew that her time was limited, and she wanted to spend her final days surrounded by those she loved. The transition to hospice was a stark reminder of the inevitability of her situation, but Doherty faced it with the same bravery that had defined her life. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Doherty took her final breath. Her passing was a huge loss to the world, but for those who knew her, it was a reminder of the strength and resilience that had always been at the core of her being. Do you think she found peace in the love of those around her? Or was there a part of her that continued to rage against the dying of the light? The silent end of Richard Simmons. Richard Simmons, the iconic fitness guru who brought energy and joy to millions, faced a quieter, more somber end to his life than the vibrant persona he had shown the world. At 76, Simmons passed away after years of health challenges that he kept hidden from the public eye. Simmons was synonymous with vitality, known for his infectious enthusiasm and colorful personality. Yet behind the scenes, he was dealing with significant health issues that increasingly isolated him from the world. The man who had once been the epitome of energy and fitness found himself battling ailments that slowly drained his strength. In the years leading up to his death, Simmons's condition worsened. Once a figure of boundless energy, he became frail, unable to maintain the active lifestyle that had defined him for so long. His retreat from public life raised questions, but the truth of his declining health remained largely a private matter. During his final days, Simmons was surrounded by close friends and caregivers, the vibrant persona replaced by a quieter, more introspective presence. His death was a quiet one, in stark contrast to the loud and lively character he had portrayed throughout his career. Simmons' life and death highlight the contrast between public image and private reality, reminding us that even those who seem invincible face their own battles. Erica Ash, a life cut short. Erica Ash was a talent on the rise, a woman whose performances had captivated audiences and hinted at a long and promising career. But at the age of 46, her life was tragically cut short by cancer, leaving the world to wonder what could have been. Ash's battle with cancer was one that she kept largely private, choosing to focus on her work and her family, rather than the illness that was slowly taking over her body. But as the disease progressed, it became increasingly difficult to hide the toll it was taking on her. In the final months of her life, Ash's condition worsened rapidly. The cancer had spread to multiple organs, and her once vibrant energy was now a mere shadow of what it had been. Despite her declining health, Ash continued to work, determined to leave behind a legacy that would inspire others. As her condition became terminal, Ash made the difficult decision to step away from the spotlight. She spent her final days surrounded by her family, who provided her with the love and support she needed during this difficult time. Finally, Ash passed away peacefully, leaving behind a body of work that would continue to inspire and entertain for years to come. Connie Chum, a sudden departure. Connie Chum, the South African actress beloved for her role as Zawawari in Black Panther, faced an abrupt and tragic end that caught many by surprise. At 72, Chum passed away after a brief but aggressive illness. Her final days marked by a rapid decline that few were aware of. Chum's illness struck suddenly, and she kept the severity of her condition hidden from all but her closest family. Known for her powerful performances and deep dedication to her craft, Chum continued to work as long as she could, unwilling to let the illness define her. However, the disease progressed quickly, and her health deteriorated faster than anyone could have anticipated. In her last weeks, the actress who had brought such strength and vitality to her roles was faced with the harsh reality of her own mortality. The illness left her weak, and she eventually retreated from public life, spending her final days surrounded by loved ones. Despite the best efforts of her medical team, the illness was too aggressive to overcome. Chum's death was a shock to fans and colleagues alike, many of whom had no idea she was even sick. Her passing leaves behind a legacy of powerful performances, but also the stark reminder of how quickly life can change. Charles Cyphers, The Last Breath. Charles Cyphers, the versatile character actor whose career spanned over 5 decades, left an indelible mark on Hollywood with his unforgettable portrayals. At 85, Cyphers took his last breath, ending a life dedicated to the craft of acting, a career defined by his ability to seamlessly blend into any role he was given. Cyphers was best known for his recurring collaborations with the director John Carpenter. He became a familiar face to horror fans through his role as Sheriff Lee Brackett in Halloween in 1978, Halloween 2 in 1981, and Halloween Kills of 2021. His portrayal of Brackett, a small-town sheriff haunted by the murder of his daughter, became iconic, embedding Cyphers in the annals of horror history. But his range extended far beyond horror. Cypher's filmography included roles in Escape from New York in 1981, The Fog in 1980, and Assault on Precinct 13 in 1976, where his performances added depth and authenticity to every scene. Cypher's career wasn't just about his work with Carpenter, though. He made numerous television appearances throughout the 1970s and 1980s, playing everything from police officers to villains, always bringing a level of gravitas that made him a reliable presence on screen. His ability to disappear into a role, making the character feel genuine and lived in, earned him respect among his peers and admiration from audiences. As Cyphers aged, the roles naturally became fewer, but his dedication to the craft never wavered. However, in his final months, his health began to decline rapidly. The illness that ultimately claimed his life was swift and merciless, catching even those closest to him off guard. It started with what seemed like a minor ailment, fatigue, and persistent cough that wouldn't go away. But as days turned into weeks, it became clear that something more serious was at play. Doctors soon diagnosed him with a severe respiratory condition, likely exacerbated by years of working under the intense conditions of film sets, often in harsh environments or under heavy prosthetics. Despite aggressive treatment, Cypher's condition worsened. The once vibrant and energetic actor found himself bedridden, his body no longer able to keep up with his indomitable spirit. His frailty was starkly contrasted with the strong characters he had portrayed over the years. His voice, once commanding on screen, became a whisper, and the man who had so often been the backbone of a scene was now reliant on others for basic care. In his final days, Cyphers was surrounded by family and close friends. The hospital room, though sterile, was filled with the warmth of memories shared by those who had been touched by his life and work. Despite the best efforts of his medical team, it became evident that his body was shutting down. On a quiet afternoon, Charles Cyphers passed away peacefully, his last breath marking the end of a remarkable journey. The death of Charles Cyphers was not just the loss of a beloved character actor, but the closing chapter of an era where character actors like him were the unsung heroes of cinema. His ability to fully embody a role made every film and TV show he worked on better, and his legacy lives on in the countless characters he brought to life. How does one say goodbye to an actor who never really left the screen? Which actor's passing shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this tribute moving, make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more legacies of Hollywood's greatest stars. Thanks for watching.